Welcome back to Inspiring Hope, the podcast of Catholic Charities of Omaha. I'm Dave Vancat, Chief Community Engagement Officer for Catholic Charities. Last time, we talked about the fundamental human need for food and how Catholic Charities works to feed the hungry with dignity and respect. Today, we're going to dive into the engine that drives so much of the work that we do at Catholic Charities, volunteerism. What does volunteering truly mean? Is it just your time, or is it something deeper? A connection, a shared purpose, a way to experience and spread hope. For many, it's about finding meaning, giving back, and seeing the direct impact of their efforts on individuals and families right here in our community. Today, we're incredibly fortunate to have two amazing individuals join us. They embody the spirit of service. Sue Carlson, who is a very long-time dedicated volunteer, and Craig Zimmer, who is our community engagement coordinator. Craig and Sue will share their personal journeys and what motivates them to commit their precious time and energy to our mission. We'll explore the incredible variety of ways that people can volunteer with Catholic Charities and the profound difference our volunteers make. Their dedication is truly the heart of everything we do. Join us as we discover the transformative power of a generous spirit. Thank you so much for joining us today on Inspiring Hope. Sue, you have been an awesome volunteer for so many years since I've been around Catholic Charities. When did you start and how did you decide to get into volunteering with us?
We originally started down at St. Juan Diego Pantry. Mary Our Queen Parish developed a plan to unload the groceries that came from our next door neighbor parish, St. Robert's, and we would stock the shelves at the pantry on the first Sunday of each month. Then we didn't do a lot after that until we retired, when we were able to then work at the pantry during work hours.
How many years did you do just the Sunday volunteering?
Probably about 10.
Yeah, I knew it was a long time because I've been at Catholic Charities almost 7, and I knew that you had been doing it for a while before then. So you and your husband, Mike, have been involved together.
Mike has the gift of looking at things in an analytical manner and saying, this shelf should be here, these groceries would work here, the whole function. He kind of has that kind of mind. I'm more of the, you do this, you do this. I'm the bossy one of the two of us.
And he stayed with you all of these years, so he understands his role, so that's good. Now, we should have said that you volunteer frequently in our pantry, not only at St. Juan Diego, but you've now started volunteering at St. Teresa. So talk a little bit about the difference between those two types.
It was very exciting for us. Christine Ochoa reached out to us to let us know about the new pantry at St. Teresa's and asked if we would be interested in taking a look at how it's going to function and would we like to work there. And that was just right up Mike's alley, and I liked the concept of shopping the individual clients. It gives them a sense of dignity. So from the time before it was open, we kind of helped set things up and then started taking people around, and it's just been a joy.
So Craig, talk a little bit about not only our pantry volunteering opportunities, but what other types of volunteering is available at Catholic Charities.
There are a lot of opportunities. We have a lot of different programs and a lot of different ways to be involved. So I'll come back to our pantries a little bit and talk about some of the variety there. But we also have our St. Martin de Porres Center in North Omaha. That's where our senior program is. We have volunteers who come there 3 times a week to help lead the program, and that can mean a lot of different things. It can mean helping prepare food because there's a light breakfast and lunch each day. It can be leading activities, which sometimes means calling bingo.
They are a fun bunch. I know I've seen a lot of people call bingo down there.
For sure.
It's a serious bingo business.
Yeah, they're there to win it. And so we rely on volunteers to help. You know, I think one of the biggest things about that program is building community, and our volunteers help do that, but they also become a part of that community, which is a cool thing to see down there. And then, I mean, some of our programs have limited volunteer opportunities, like our immigration legal and our micro business, just because there's some kind of specialized background and knowledge you need there.
Right.
But we do have volunteers in those programs sometimes.
Yeah. We get people with a lot of different interests. And so your
Absolutely.
role is to match up those interests with the people's skills and the needs on our staff side to help fill in some gaps.
Absolutely. Find out who they are.
Mm-hmm.
What are their interests? What are their skills? And what are our needs? And how do we kind of plug those together? And, you know, Sue was talking about the difference between the pantries and where a lot of our volunteers go around and shop with our clients at the St. Teresa Market Choice Pantry. Some of our volunteers are a little more introverted.
Right.
And they don't necessarily want to go around shopping with clients who come in, but that's okay because we have other things we need them to do, like weighing carts before they go out, helping people out to their cars who need it, bringing the carts back in, and then kind of reloading to get it ready for the next shopper. So we have stuff for all kinds of personality types, as well as all kinds of backgrounds.
And not just retirees, but also we get a lot of younger people that want to come in, sometimes grandparents with grandchildren, families, a lot of student groups.
We bring our grandchildren in to help load the shelves on Sundays, and they just look forward to that. And when they can't do it, then they're a little bit disappointed. And I think it then instills in them the desire to continue to volunteer. And I think that's really important.
Yeah.
And a comment on the culture at both pantries. Catholic Charities and the coordinators have done a wonderful job of making such a good culture, not just for the clients, but for the volunteers. We all care about each other. We care about the clients. We care about each other. If someone has something go wrong in their family, then there's usually, well, we'll make sure we pray for you. And I'm just so impressed with that. And it makes, when you bring new people in, it's easy to kind of incorporate them into the group.
And you've got some experience with encouraging people to volunteer and bringing them on board. Talk about that.
My youngest sister and her husband lived in Mount Vernon, Iowa, and they recently retired and moved here. And she got here earlier, but she said, I can hardly wait till I can come and do pantry with you, because I would relay to her the experiences we'd had. And then her husband was still working, but he also relayed it to his brother. And I talked to Gary, and he works at the St. Juan Diego pantry. So I forgot about this when I was thinking about it, reflecting a little bit. One of my daughter's coworkers is also a nurse, and I had her come and work at St. Teresa's pantry. She loved it, and she's no longer able to do that because of some health issues. She's a young woman and now has a disease that's going to prohibit her from long-term movement, but she still asks about it all the time, asks about the people. So I think it's a special thing.
Yeah, it changes your perspective.
It does indeed. It does indeed.
And I think your example of volunteering not only for your children and your grandchildren, but for your extended family. We see that quite a bit, Craig. I know you're familiar with others who have brought additional people on board once they've started volunteering because they've had a great experience and they like to help.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Even just this summer already, we've had one of our regular deacon volunteers who's great, has been bringing his granddaughters with him because they're out of school. We have a volunteer who's a teacher. She came and volunteered this spring with a couple of colleagues. Summer rolled around, so she has time. Her kids are out of school. Her and her two sons have been coming in.
Yep. So you mentioned the deacons.
Yeah.
I know the deacons have been quite involved in going up to Macy and Walt Hill, Nebraska on the Omaha tribe lands. Every month we go up on the first Tuesday, and the deacons have been very dedicated and supporting that particular element of our volunteering.
Absolutely. And sometimes it can be a challenge. It can be really hot. It can be really cold. It can be windy. It can be rainy. And that group of deacons, as you say, dedicated is exactly the right word. They are always there. And sometimes it's not an easy job, not just because of the weather. I mean, you're there 2 different places. You're on your feet for, a good 6 hours distributing, It's not an easy job, but they're dedicated. And we have other deacons who volunteer in the pantries. Another unique kind of volunteer opportunity is picking up food donations from grocery stores and restaurants. So we're able to provide food to people in need and also reduce waste. We have some deacons who are really involved in doing some of that too. So they're a great group.
Yeah, and we have a lot of Knights of Columbus that help us in that particular area, going and picking up food and making sure that it doesn't get wasted and gets distributed through our various avenues.
Yeah.
But not every volunteer we have actually comes to Catholic Charities. Talk a little bit about our volunteers who help provide a Sunday meal, a home-cooked meal for our domestic violence shelter every week.
Yeah. I think that is a really unique and really important opportunity. This is a group of women from St. Vincent de Paul Parish. They've been doing it, I believe, for more than a couple decades now.
Absolutely.
Which is amazing. And every Sunday, they have various people involved each week. It's a home cooked meal. It gets delivered to the shelter. And Peyton, who runs the shelter, or DVS, she was telling me how it's such an important experience for the clients in the shelter. One, they don't have to worry about a meal, and that's a little bit of a load off.
Right.
But even more so, it's just that experience of community. And they get together, they have a home-cooked meal. It lets them feel a little bit of a sense of home, which is something that they, I think, really appreciate. So it's a very unique volunteer thing, but it is so valuable.
Yes, I know it's greatly appreciated by the survivors and their children to know somebody is out there and cares for them.
Absolutely.
People they don't know, they won't see, but they are feeling that love of Christ that we try to display through that food. So it is another aspect of volunteering that people don't always think about. You mentioned the St. Robert's food drives monthly. That's another role of volunteering, people collecting the food. We have people who collect diapers. We've got a family that for many, many years has been doing their own diaper drive and bringing those in to us. And so there's all kinds of different ways that people can volunteer their time, use their talents to support the work of Catholic Charities.
I think sometimes people are not aware of the poverty that is in the city of Omaha. As Mike and I have been working more with St. Teresa's Pantry, and we've had different activities or meetings with friends, and we'll say, it's terrible. You can't even keep toilet paper on the shelves. And I had one of my friends come with 2 cases of toilet paper. Here, take this to your pantry. I can't imagine not having toilet paper in my home. So I just think sometimes just letting people know there is a need out there. And sometimes it's the people who have unfortunately lost a job or had an unexpected illness. They never thought they'd be in a pantry.
Yeah, we talked about that in our last podcast with Christine, that so many people never expected to be in our pantry lines, but high medical bills or car problem or some other issue comes up, and then they are looking for assistance in that moment of crisis. And I know you've got experience like that as well.
Well, and that was kind of how we started down the volunteer path when our children were younger. We were a young family with 3 almost school-age children, and Mike had a great job in manufacturing, and then the manufacturing job went away. It moved to another city, and so here we were going to put 3 children through Mary Our Queen, and there was a Sunday contribution limit that you were expected to contribute. And they said, if you cannot do that, then you have to find other ways or reach out to Father Kenny, the pastor. And so we did. We said, we can't, with 3 children and not a good job yet, we can do other things. Mike was in the men's club. He also helped with the Boy Scouts. And then we took on the church festival, just because those were things we could do. When they talk about time, talent, and treasure, sometimes people think it's easier to just throw $1 at something. And really, it's the time and the treasure, the talent that is most important.
Yeah, and you've talked about how it's impacted you, that volunteering. Clearly, you keep coming back, so you must be getting something out of the volunteer time you're spending with us.
You see Christ in every single person you meet, whether you initially believe that or not. I love shopping those clients, and we've had. Now I'll get a text every once in a while. Happy Mother's Day. These are people, these are humans that now I pray for them every day. My list keeps getting longer and longer. I'm going to have to figure out how to pare that down or just say, and all the other people on my list. So it's important, and it brings you closer to God.
Absolutely.
Or it brings me closer to God.
Well, and I would agree, and I know we've heard that from other people who have talked about, this is a way that they can live their faith, regardless of their faith. Yeah. We have Muslims who volunteer with us. We have Mormons who volunteer with us. We have Catholics and other Christians who volunteer with us. It's not about the specific faith, but about the goal of serving other people. And I know you've heard stories like that as well, Craig.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think sometimes you just have to open the door a little bit, and a person, no matter where they're coming from, what they see is they might see people in need, they might see a way they can help, and they see other people who are helping, And so where you're coming from isn't really what the point is,
right.
And we like to say that, or we like to emphasize that at Catholic Charities, we don't just serve people who are Catholic, and we also, the people who are serving are not just Catholic, as you say. I mean, it's one big community of people just trying to do something good in the world and care for one another, and that's a great thing to see.
Absolutely. I mean, it does help not only the people that we are serving, but it helps extend the ability of Catholic Charities to serve more. We said last time there's only 6 people involved with our pantries, and the nearly 3 million pounds of food that we distribute annually is made possible by all of the volunteer efforts that we put forth.
Absolutely.
We're just blessed to work with such a good group at Catholic Charities. The staff, the administration, that you have good support there. And if there's an issue, it gets addressed, because the point is to make sure that the people that need the food, that need the services, are getting them with the most dignity possible.
And I was going to give you just a little snapshot, because we absolutely rely on volunteers. There's no doubt about it. But what does that actually look like? Mm-hmm. So these numbers are from April, but it's a pretty good snapshot. It fluctuates a little, but in April, we had 125 individual volunteers who volunteered 300 times. So that's 300 times of a volunteer showing up. Some of them are multiple times a week, like Sue and Mike. Some are once a week, so that's 4 times a month. And all that adds up to 900 volunteer hours in April. They're incredible. The generosity and the dedication of our volunteers, we absolutely couldn't do without them. And we say that all the time, and it's true on the nuts and bolts level. But we also talk about how much it's important to treat the people we serve with dignity, with kindness, respect. If you come into the St. Teresa Pantry on any given day, there might be 3 or 4, maybe 5 people who work for Catholic Charities, and at least twice as many volunteers. So we also rely on them. They're the ones interacting with the clients as they go through. They're the ones who are the face of that, treating people with kindness and with dignity, and they do an incredible job.
Agreed.
These people begin to be a part of your extended family. If Mike will say to me, well, after pantry, I didn't notice so-and-so, and it was their day to come. I hope everything is okay with them. And he'll say, I noticed that this one wasn't walking right or something. And then he'll say, what do you think we can do? Or we'll talk to Christine or whatever. It does. You're just expanding your family. Those of us who are from large families, you know how that works, but there is never too much you can't do for a person. And there's never too many people to help.
No. And so a lot of empathy, a lot of smiles. We talked again last time about so many different languages and dialects that are spoken at St. Teresa as people are going through. But a smile goes so far in trying to make them at ease and work with them through whatever language barriers there may be.
My sister Mary Lou is a phenomenal cook. And she is also a retired teacher. She will try and explain to someone who doesn't speak very good English how to make instant mashed potatoes or how to do this. We also discovered that it's great if you get snap tops on these cans. Some people don't know what a can opener is or how to use a can opener. So then Mary Lou will demonstrate that. Sometimes it becomes a little bit comical, but she also loves little children, and so she usually has a bag of stuffed animals or cars or something. And if somebody's in a lot of distress, then all of a sudden they have a little stuffed animal to take through pantry.
That's awesome, because we do have a lot of children that come around with the parents to our pantries. So, Sue, what would you say to someone who's listening to this podcast about, what not only you get out of volunteering, but why should they make that next step to volunteer?
The reward is beyond anything you can imagine. I worked as an administrator in a healthcare facility and was handsomely paid. This is worth so much more than I ever received. And you meet other people. The Lord calls you to always grow. Volunteering, meeting these people, even if all you can do is smile, is worth the price of admission.
That's awesome. So, Craig, if someone does want to take that next step and say, I want to volunteer, whether it's one time, many times, every week, once a month, what do they do? What are their next steps?
The easiest thing to do is to go to the Catholic Charities website, ccomaha.org, click on Get Involved and click on Volunteer. And it's just a very short gives us a little bit information about who you are, what you're interested in, what your schedule is. Most of our volunteer opportunities are during the week, but we have, every day during the week, morning and afternoon. So we'll just try and find out what fits. I think it's a pretty simple process. We have you fill out a quick form with all the basic info that we have to do for everything. So there's no obstacles.
And then you help match them with, their interests, their background, their talents and gifts, and our different locations depending on what they're interested in doing. And
absolutely. And you can come in for you can come in one time and check it out. You can say, I want to do this every week. Either way is totally fine. And I'm sure there's people who are a little nervous or a little hesitant. And so maybe that's, again, where you just kind of dip your foot in a little bit. That's perfectly fine. We're happy to have you come join us in any capacity. And there's times where maybe it can be a little bit uncomfortable trying to help somebody who you can't really speak with. That's okay too, because it teaches us a lot about ourselves and about our world. And, again, I would just encourage people to take that step.
Absolutely. So any last thoughts, Sue, that you want to share?
The advantages of volunteering are immeasurable. You meet volunteers, you meet clients, and you meet Christ every day.
Awesome. Beautifully said. Thank you so much, both of you, for being here on Inspiring Hope. And we are so grateful, again, to you for all of your volunteering, your husband, Mike, and those others that you've brought on board. And thank you, Craig, for all of your efforts in coordinating them all.
Of course.
Thank you so much for joining us today. Volunteering is more than just an act of kindness. It's a profound declaration of our shared humanity. It's the moment we chose to step outside ourselves and offer a piece of our time, our skills, our heart to make someone else's burden lighter. We've heard today from Sue and Craig how volunteering isn't just about helping others, it's about enriching our own lives and finding a deeper meaning, to build true community. Every smile shared, every item sorted, every hand held is a testament to the fact that when we serve, we receive far more than when we give. At Catholic Charities, our volunteers are truly the hands and feet of Jesus Christ in action. They are the heart and soul of what we do. They are compassionate faces, the listening ears, the tireless workers who ensure that dignity, respect, and hope are delivered alongside every service we provide. Their dedication allows us to serve thousands of individuals and families, both young and old, who are seeking help and a path forward. Maybe you felt the pull to serve. Maybe you didn't know how or where you'd fit in. But here's your invitation. Start now. Volunteer. Go to ccomaha.org to connect with us and simply share this episode with somebody else that you think might be a great volunteer, someone that you know who has that compassion and dedication and the spirit of service to be a transformative power to others. Because in the end, as we've learned, the greatest gift we can give is ourselves. It's an investment in others that pays dividends of hope for everyone who comes to us in need. If this conversation resonated with you, please subscribe, share, and stay connected. If you want to learn more about our volunteers opportunities, you can join the Catholic Charities family and visit our website at ccomaha.org/volunteer to sign up. Thank you for listening to Inspiring Hope. God bless.